President Cyril Ramaphosa indicated in his State of the Nation address on Thursday evening that the Social Relief Distress Grant will then be expanded to create a more sustainable as well as improved source of income. In expressing government's efforts to fight poverty, the president says over 20 million South Africans receive social grants, and the announcement has now sparked a larger conversation on eradication of poverty. Afrika Tikkun calls on government to link grants to skills development, part-time work and national service in order to empower youth as well as break cycles of poverty. Let's now welcome Diani Mohlaba, the Chief Operating Officer at Afrika Tikkun Foundation, NPC. Diani, thank you so much for your time. Good afternoon. So let's talk about your reaction to the expansion of the Social Relief Distress Grant.
Thank you, Alicia. I think, it's welcomed. The president basically made it clear that we will continue our fight as a country to fight poverty. We want to basically, emphasize the need that these grants should be linked to aspects of meaningful social and economic participation, especially amongst the youth, through skills development, amongst others.
What do you think would be the best way, Diani, then to utilize this grant while also empowering the rightful dependents?
So, there are a number of examples. We are on the cold face of unemployment on a daily basis in the centers that we operate in. Take Alexandra, for example. As you go through those streets, regardless of the day of the week, Monday to Friday, just for argument's sake, there are young people, sitting unemployed, and you can see that, the poverty and unemployment is really ravaging our communities. So one of the things that I think the community of Alexandra did was to start a street cleaning campaign. You have women waking up as early as 5 a.m., basically sweeping the streets. Alexandra is one of the cleanest townships lately because of such initiatives. Now, imagine if you expanded that to social grant recipients. Over time, connecting them to pick it up. Some of the areas are not accessible through pick it up trucks, for example. That can be linked to some form of job creation opportunities. 2 or 3 days a week, young people go there and get a stipend, to make sure that they earn a living meaningfully. You have a situation where, if you look at yourself, how many TVs, computer screens, cell phones that you are not using anymore? Recycling of electronic and electrical waste products is one of the initiatives. You set up young people, you connect them to the Department of Environmental Affairs, and through our skills development programs, we train them how to basically break down these electronic equipment, your cell phones, separate glass from plastic, for example, your motherboards in computers, and send them through down the value chain for recycling. And so there are these kind of desperate government initiatives that will need to be integrated to make sure that it works effectively. There's no shortness of ideas, and what is happening in the government space.
Absolutely, Diani. And with that announcement as well of specified revisitation of municipal funding, I suppose that those ideas could actually come in very handy. So obviously, first, though, would be to ensure that the deserving recipients, Diani, are indeed assisted, because we keep getting these harrowing reports of how even some who have falsified or fraudulent documents actually do have access to this key and critical services that are actually for those that are destitute in the country.
Absolutely, and that's very critical because, for example, in our programs, in our centers, we have a very stringent way of verifying who's dependent. We guided by the minimum wage, amongst other things. Children that we classify as OVCs, that is orphan and vulnerable children. Some of them coming from child-headed families. Some of them basically have one parent, or the parent is not working, or both are not working. someone living with parents who are disabled, living with disability. So all those kind of, stringent measures needs to be put in place to make sure that, the most deserving basically go through the process and get these opportunities. I'll cite another example, if I may, Alicia.
Very quickly, yes.
If you look at the spaza shops in our townships, I mean, Sparkle or Kota, depending on which part of the country you come from, we basically in Soweto, for example, statistics in 2012 indicated there's about 500,000 loaves going through spaza shops in a day. You extrapolate that, today it could be 1.2 million. And I mean, can you imagine what could happen if we link social grants to bakeries that can be set up in the communities? You can go through the value chain of preparing the flour, grinding it, having small meals in there, taking it through the value chain, package it, have bakeries, bake bread and transport and basically sell it to the communities. So we have an informal economy that can basically absorb our young unemployed youth.
Absolutely.
If we could basically come together and think through the solutions.